So firstly, inspiration. It comes in many forms, but today I'm going back to my sketchbook. It's kind of messy. And I'm thinking of drawing something from this. Maybe a cheesecake or maybe the soda. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, something from here. 3 brushes. The 6B pencil, the monoline, and the soft brush. I'll start off with a rough sketch. I have this particular brown color that I like to use for my sketches because it's not too dark, not too light, and it just helps everything stand out just enough. So let's go ahead and start with that first. I've decided on going for the cheesecake since I have had that on my drawing to-do list for a while and I just haven't gotten around to doing it. So let's roughly sketch the cheesecake. Now this part doesn't have to be perfect at all. It's just so that you know where everything is going and you can kind of plan it out. So I don't take too much time on this, just make it nice and simple. I'm kind of done with the basic shape now, so I'm going to add in my signature thing. I actually don't know how this became a thing, but it slowly just started working its way into everything I drew. So yeah. To give him little teeth. I kind of just mark it in the beginning. It looks very rough, but I'm actually not sure where to put the face just yet. Maybe here, maybe in the middle. I'm not sure. And I also don't think that it looks triangle-y enough. So I'm just gonna modify this, distort it a little bit. I think I like that better. How about this sauce? I think this sauce kind of hits him in the face a little bit. So I'm gonna move it to the side. There we go. I think this is where it's at. Whoopsie daisy. I'm just gonna merge these layers together. And now it's time for the line work. So I'm gonna lower the opacity and start with the line work. I used the same 6B pencil when I with my line work too, or for my line work too, but I just make it neater and more refined so I don't go over it several times. Now it's time for the blueberries. I do my line work separately like this. There is a reason for why I'm doing it like this. I'll show you in the end. But there is a reason. I'm also going to make the syrup on a separate layer. Now it's finally time for the features. I use the calligraphy pen to create the eyes. Now that I've finally created all my line work, I'm going to put them in one group and hide the sketch layer. I'm also going to remove bits that shouldn't overlap. So like this bit of the cheesecake that you can see here. I think that's it for this one. So line work done. Now it's time for solid colors. I use the calligraphy monoline pen and I kind of just go in. At this point, it's not that important which color you pick because you can change it afterwards. Make sure your fill color is underneath your line work. I'm going to color it in separate layers. So I think these are blueberries. I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna go with blueberries. Time for the syrup. Then a layer for the crust. Sometimes I'll have a color palette and other times I won't. So for this one I don't really have a color palette, I'm just kind of winging it, I guess, and seeing what fits better as I go along. That can be a dangerous game to play, but sometimes it works out. Most of the time. I don't think I'm quite happy with the way the mouth turned out, so I'm gonna redo it. Now I'm gonna start making modifications to the colors so that it actually looks like a cheesecake. So I think this color is quite close, but it needs to be lighter. So I create a additional layer over my base color and add a clipping mask. And then I start adding details. So I'm going to pick this color and then go with a darker version. Now keep in mind, you do want to know where your light source is from now, like as soon as you start adding the details and the shading in. In my case, I want it to come in from the left front. So that's why the shadow is on the right. So just keep things like that in mind when you're shading and adding shaded details. Now I'm going to add a clipping mask to the crust layer. This should be fun because crust has a lot of bumps. Okay, now let's go in for the details of the crust. I'm gonna select the color and then go for a darker shade. I think I like that. Maybe I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. And then this is where my charcoals come in. think I'm gonna go with burnt tree, and then you add in your textures. And then at this point you can go even darker. You can just go and then I'm gonna go and make it a little like almost the darkest color we have, like this. And then I want to create some dotted texture on the cheesecake. Maybe these flicks here, which are in the spray paint brush section, and add a few of those. I'm quite happy with that. I think it looks a lot like cheesecake crust. I'm going to add another cooking mask, and this one's going to be for the lighter color, because in cheesecake crust there are bits popping out, which would translate to a few light speckles as well. So just think of how you see things in real life and try and replicate that. Now it's time for the syrup. For this, I'm also going to add a clipping mask. I want this to translate to a semi-transparent liquid, gel-like liquid. So let's see how we can make that look. So I'm gonna go in, and where the darker areas are, that's where I'm gonna kind of go in with this color. So basically the darker areas, or where most of the syrup is heavy, I'm going to add this color to kind of translate that. And then I'm going to go in with my eraser brush, but I'm going to change it to the soft brush. And then like that. I'm going to change the line art color now so that I can see things better. This is where I said the line art will come in. So I'm going to alpha lock each of the line work. And because they're separate, changing the color will be easier. So I'm going to pick the color of the cheesecake, and I'm going to make it darker and fill it in. Like that. For the face, I think I'm going to make it a dark plum color. Usually I go for brown, but I think maybe I should go for brown. Let's try it. Now we need to go in and work on the blueberries further. I'm going to add another clipping mask, and now I'm done with this. I'm going to change the color of the syrups to make it match now. So I'm going to go for a lighter version of this. Then I'm going to add some highlights to this as well. This is where I do my final touches. Down. There. I'm going to group everything together just so that it's neater. And let's work on this now. I'm going to create the highlights for this, for the cheesecake body. I'm going to just now this is the final step that I do. Oopsie daisy. The final thing I do is I duplicate the line work, and I'm going to turn off everything else and then flatten it. And then I go and I erase everything but the outer line work. Oopsie daisy. Then I'll make this layer a dark version of whatever I'm working with. So in this case, it's like a dark purple or plum, and then fill it in, and then bring everything back again. And that creates a nice dark outline. And then now we can change the background color. I do advise you change it before you start, because it makes picking the colors easier, but I guess I like a hard way of doing things. Now I can group everything together like this. And we're going to create a new layer, and then this is going to be the cheesecake's shadow. So pick calligraphy, and oops. And then remember your light source, you want to manipulate it in a way where your light source makes sense, the shadow makes sense. And then I like to turn the opacity down on that. And then last but not least, I add my signature or stamp. And I lower the opacity on that too. Center it a bit, and voila, we're done. The first question is, how did you first get into art? I got into art very, very young. I think I was 2 or 3. I used to do arts and crafts with my mum all the time, and just my love for arts, I think, started there. And then it just carried on, or carried its way through my life in different forms. But my start was very young, so 2 or 3 via arts and crafts with my mum. The second question is, what do you do when you have artist block? I've done a video of this on my Instagram page, but I think for me, usually I get artist block because I've overworked myself or I'm burnt out. So usually I just go for a walk or a break, or just do anything other than art for a bit, maybe 2-3 days, and I usually get my mojo back. What motivates you to continue with your artwork? I think knowing that this is what I've always wanted to do keeps me going. Like I said, I've done lots of different creative things throughout my life, but I've always known I wanted to do something that involved me actually like drawing, so illustration. And this just, it is perfect. So I think that motivates me to keep on doing what I'm doing. Another thing that motivates me is other artists. So when I see what other artists are doing and what they're up to, and just the industry in general and how far it's come, that motivates me to keep going. For the last question, what is Chef Piclet's favorite style of cooking? I think Chef Piclet likes to cook things that provoke emotion, positive emotion, nostalgia to be specific. So she likes to make dishes that remind people of places or people, positive, you know, uh, positive experiences. I think that's the word I'm looking for. So maybe like one pot dishes, street food, um, things like that. Finally, I want to give a huge thank you to all these amazing people who have supported me and continue to support me.